Hey guys, and welcome finally to Q&A number 11. I am actually shocked because I just looked back at when Q&A 10 was posted and it has been several months since our last Q&A. So I am really excited this year in 2026 to be bringing you not only this Q&A, but 10 total Q&As just like I did last year to help answer your question and ease your worries about CRPS. If you haven't seen my previous Q&As, you can check the description and the pinned comment down below to watch my Q&A 1 through 10 compilation video and get yourself caught up. If you have a question for any future Q&As, please do comment under this video with your question, and I will be happy to answer it in the next one, Q&A number 12. One thing I want to ask from you as a favor is if you are enjoying these Q&A videos and you find my information helpful, please make sure to like the video. It should be right under my finger where I'm pointing. There should be a thumbs up button. That really helps other people dealing with CRPS find me and find some of my materials to maybe help them in the same way. Additionally, if you're watching this and you want to be notified of when my videos are coming out or notified of when the next Q&A is, some of which will be live this year, then go ahead and hit the button next to that, which is the subscribe button on YouTube. And that also really helps people discover me and keeps you up to date with everything that I'm doing. If you want more free information just like this outside of video form, then you can check the link in the pinned comment and description down below to join my free email list also. Through that email list, you'll get toolkits about sleep, toolkits about meditation, toolkits to help you with desensitization, all for free every single week. So I'd be very excited to have you there. Without further ado, we can jump into this Q&A and we'll go over, the many questions that you guys asked me this time around, and I'm very excited to answer some of them. Actually, I lied. There is further ado because a lot of people watching this don't even know who I am. So if you don't know, my name is Chase Teagarden, and a little over 11 years ago, I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome myself. After a 4-year journey of going to doctor after doctor, having treatment after treatment, and getting no help, and nearly taking my own life, I thankfully found my own way out of pain. And since then, I've gone on to become not only a doctor of physical therapy and therapeutic pain specialist, but one of 60 fellows of pain science in the nation at the time of recording this video. I now help people all over the world through my free videos, my online course, and one-on-one coaching to overcome this pain and move on to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. These videos are part of my effort to get free information out there to people who might be suffering and help people calm the fear of CRPS, which in turn also calms the pain. So I hope that this video will be helpful. I hope by the end of it, you'll feel a little more confident in where you're going and the path you're on to reaching remission, or as I call it, recovery with CRPS. And let's get started. So, jumping into our very first question, Michelle says, can you give an example of a treatment session? Also, are they 30 minutes or an hour? How many sessions a week? For the paid part, do we have access to text you when needed? And how many sessions total for your program? Okay, Michelle, great question. And actually, this is a question I get a lot. And believe it or not, I actually have a full video breakdown of this exact question, answering everything you've just asked on my main website, thewindowpain.com. It's on the very first page. It says, "What is pain coaching?" And that same video is also on YouTube. So in my YouTube video collection, it says, "What is pain coaching?" And it's a full breakdown of everything you've just asked. So if you want a lot more depth than I'm about to give you, you can check that video out. But just to break it down for you, pain coaching is a service. It's a one-on-one service, and it is not required to get better, but it is something for you personally if you want something more customized for you. This is a service where I work with you one-on-one for 8, 12, or 16 sessions. This is typically one session per week for 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the need that day. In that session, we work together to form both physical and emotional exercises pertinent to your case specifically to help you move forward and back to life. So, as an example, if you are someone who is trying to get back to eating at the table with family for dinner or doing artwork, in a certain type of way, we would create custom goals for you to start to get there. That could look as something as small as sitting at the table for 30 seconds or, finding a way to even just get up from the chair. There's also clients of mine who want to get back to horseback riding or basketball or snowboarding or something like that. And so we create custom physical plans based on my knowledge as a physical therapist, but then also custom emotional things to help overcome the medical trauma as well as the trauma that occurred even before CRPS came on. So it is a very customized thing, the coaching, and it varies from person to person. So Renee's treatment isn't going to be the same as Lydia's treatment, for example, because you're different people. And I firmly believe that each person should be treated in that way, custom, to who they are. That's an important part of healing. If you want an example of a variety of treatment sessions, you can go on my YouTube page and you can look for the videos called Breaking Free. Those breaking free videos are videos of me working with people in a session. So you can get an actual clear example from those videos of kind of what I do in a session. But again, it's going to be custom for everyone. Typically, I am doing one session per week. Sometimes I do one session every other week, depending on the person and what they need and what their schedule can accommodate. When you are working with me as a coaching client, you are guaranteed a 24-hour response time to any question or concern that you may have. The reason I do this is because when I was dealing with pain and I would reach out to a doctor, especially here in America, sometimes I wouldn't hear back for 3 weeks. And I found that unacceptable, especially because CRPS is such a scary diagnosis that if you're sitting there waiting to hear back from a doctor, for weeks and weeks and weeks, your fear is rising, your anxiety is rising, and with both of them being processed in a similar center of the brain as pain, that's increasing your pain in and of itself. So yes, a lot of people or all of my clients will have full access, guaranteed 24-hour response time with me through Facebook Messenger, or some of them have my cell phone number. It just depends. But yes, you do have that to answer you. And then the last question I've answered, but how many sessions total for your program? 8, 12, or 16 session packages or how my program's designed. But you can work with me for as long as you wish to. So for example, if you sign up with me and you are in my Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Central Time slot, I always tell my clients, you have that slot until you feel ready to be independent from me. And my goal is to get you feeling better and independent and confident in taking care of yourself as fast as possible. It's a terrible business model, but I'm not here to do business. I'm here to help. So yeah, that's to answer your question, Michelle. Check out the video that is on my main website, thewindowpain.com, and it'll fully break down everything for you that you've asked here. Okay, let's see. Okay, and then piggybacking off of Michelle's question, Lisa said, "What does your paid program contain? How do you help? And how much does it cost?" Lisa, I also have a full video on this because this is a question that I get a lot. The video is called "What is in my online CRPS chronic pain program?" And you can find that on my YouTube. You can also find that on my main website. Go to the website, you'll be on the homepage. Click the little hamburger button in the corner or the button that says courses, and then there's a full video there breaking it down. I also have a full landing page that breaks down what's in my program online as well. Just go to my main website, and then there's a button that says looking for my online course. Click here, and then you click that button, and it'll take you to a full breakdown of what is in my course. To give you a quick overview, my course is 10 years of my knowledge all in one place, and it is designed to walk you through the same journey that I went on as I figured my own way out of pain. So, in the beginning, you learn about the relationship between your physical pains and the emotional pains that come with it. In the second video, you learn about all the misconceptions about CRPS, including the misconstrued idea that it is incurable and nobody gets better from CRPS. In module 3, you learn all about central sensitization and how to calm down the nervous system with a clear process. In module 4, you learn all about desensitization, all of the different methods to perform desensitization in a safe way that isn't painful. You also learn all of the tools that you can use, and my most recommended tools for desensitization too. In Module 5, you learn about how the things that doctors say to us can perpetuate our pain and how our beliefs shape our perception of our pain. In Module 6, you learn how structure does not matter when it comes to pain, and many people have nerve damage or implant devices, screws, plates, etc., but don't have lasting chronic pain. So blaming those things on pain is kind of misguided. In Module 7, you learn about trauma and emotion and their relationship to pain, as well as my 5-step process to calming the nervous system and processing that trauma and emotion. A lot of times they will say you need to get out of fight or flight, you need to get out of fight or flight to help CRPS, but no one actually gives you a clear process on how to do that. And that's exactly what's in my course. And then finally, in Module 8, you learn about the next step in moving on with life as your CRPS starts to come down. The cool thing about my course is I don't just put out these videos as theory. I literally prove it along the way. So in my course, you will meet about 15 of my clients in client coaching videos that are inside my course, and you will watch them go on a journey from very distraught and sad in bed all the way to giving a testimonial and being back to life. So if you want proof that the program helps, you can look at my Overcoming CRPS series here on YouTube anytime, but you can also see in my online course the exact step-by-step process I take with a variety of clients all the way through. So I hope that answers your question about what the program contains. Things that I didn't mention are it contains toolkits, free toolkits to help you with sleeping. It contains toolkits to help you understand meditation and calm the nervous system that way. It contains suggested exercises for you to do for the wrist and the legs and the feet, etc. So it's everything you could ever want all in one place. And I'm actually super proud of it. And I honestly think it's tragically underpriced for the amount of information I've put in there. But I want to make it accessible to you. So to answer your question about how much it costs, it's $375 normally, but you can use the code Q&A 75 and you'll get $75 off if you'd like to join the course. So that code is just for you if you've stuck around this long in the video, and you're welcome to use it anytime. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Lisa. Thank you so much. Okay, so Lynn asked, is this based on mind retraining slash rewiring or somatic work? Lynn, this is a great question. People often ask, what is my work based on? What is the method? Those kinds of things. My work is rooted in a concept called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the idea that the brain and nervous system, meaning your spinal cord and all of your nerves by extension, can learn and adapt. And understanding how and why that happens as a human being. And neuroplasticity is such a foundational thing in our life that it is literally how we learn language. It is how we learn to use tools, ride a bike. It is how we learn to adapt to new environments in our life and learn to even just change the washing machine to a different setting. That's on my mind because I helped my dad figure out how to do that. But neuroplasticity is all around us. It is literally how humans learn how to do anything in life. It is the most clear and basic concept that there is. And that is what my work is based on. It is based on how neuroplasticity occurs through physical changes and through emotional and mental changes in our life. So, for example, if you are in an environment that is very hot, at first that'll be really overwhelming. So when I first moved to Houston from Iowa, at first the summer was really overwhelming because it's so hot in Houston. And now my nervous system has adapted via neuroplasticity to handle the summers a bit better. Don't get me wrong, the summers are still horrendous, but that is an example of adaptation. That's an example of neuroplasticity. There are cultures where fishing, diving into the sea and getting fish is a big part of the culture. Those individuals have a higher lung capacity because they train their life to do those things. Neuroplasticity is how people train for the Olympics and become stronger swimmers and runners and jumpers. Neuroplasticity is what my work is based on. And yes, through neuroplasticity, we are rewiring or retraining the brain and by extension, the spinal cord and the nervous system. When you say, or is it based in somatic work? Yes, soma just means body. So I am working with the body and understanding emotions and how they appear in the body. But I'm not a somatic therapist. I am not a pain reprocessing therapist. That is not what I do. My work is grounded in the concept of neuroplasticity and how we learn via, in a bad way, via traumatic injury, traumatic events in our life, traumatic emotional events included, and also how we unlearn in a good way to come out of those injuries, traumatic events, and traumatic emotional events. I hope that helps kind of explain what I do with my work. And it's really no secret, if you want to learn a bit more about what I do, please check out all, 200 plus hours of YouTube videos on this YouTube channel by clicking my name down under the video, and you can find more of my videos. But great question, and one I actually get a lot too. Um, let's see. Kayla, she said, why does it take so long to see a breakthrough? And Kayla is actually a client of mine. And, this question is such a hard question because I know the depth of what's behind it. A lot of times you can try and try and try to improve physically and reduce your pain and take steps to get there. But sometimes it takes a lot longer to get to a point where you see your pain starting to come down and your suffering starting to alleviate. And the reason it takes so long is because CRPS is not just something that came on when you sprained your ankle or when you fell and broke your wrist, at the grocery store, or when you woke up one morning and your elbow is hurting. CRPS is something that is the breaking point for a life that has been lived on the edge of central sensitization. And so, what I mean by that is our body becomes centrally sensitized by chronically living under immense stress. And the way that that happens is not only through, a series of injuries we might have had. So, for example, I had two back surgeries that then eventually led to my diagnosis with CRPS. Those are the physical aspects of my life that have contributed to my diagnosis with CRPS, and not only CRPS, but other central sensitization or alphabet syndromes, such as my diagnosis with chronic migraines and also my diagnosis with ulcerative colitis, all of which, mind you, I don't suffer from at all anymore. Sometimes we get caught up in looking at when we were diagnosed with CRPS or migraines or ulcerative colitis or a plethora of other conditions, which could be POTS, PANS, PANDAS, MCAS, FND, etc. And we think, this is when it happened. This is the only thing that occurred that led to my central sensitization, led to my nervous system being hyperactive. And it's taking forever to see a breakthrough. Well, I know Kayla's been suffering with pain for a number of years. And the thing is we've only been working together for, a month or two. And the challenge there is you have years of programming that your nervous system has gone through in a negative way through neuroplasticity that need to be gradually undone to calm the nervous system back down. So, for example, to give you an idea of the programming that I endured, when I was in high school and I first started having back pain, shortly before I started having back pain was when my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 brain, lung, and bone cancer and given 9 months to live. I had back pain during her battle with cancer, and then after she passed, my back pain increased significantly, and then I had to have back surgery, had to have back surgery according to the doctors. On top of that, during the time that my mother was dealing with cancer, my older brother, lost his job and found out some things in his family life that were really challenging. And he turned to alcohol as a vice. And so my mother was, dying of cancer. My brother was drinking alcohol. And eventually he passed away from his alcohol abuse. And about 6 months after that, my back pain had increased so significantly that I needed to have another back surgery. And then just shortly after that surgery, I developed CRPS. as I was improving from CRPS, I was severely depressed. I was asking the same question that Kayla's asking here. Why is it taking so long to see a breakthrough? And then as soon as my CRPS pain was starting to come down, I developed chronic migraines. During that time, being depressed and having migraines, when my migraines eventually subsided after I started going to school for physical therapy and doing my doctorate, I developed ulcerative colitis. I developed that ulcerative colitis around the time that my little sister, who was misbehaving up in Iowa with my father, came to live with me for the last part of high school. And she ended up dropping out of high school, using, doing a bunch of different substances and just kind of acting a fool, quitting her job. At the same time, I was president of my class and I was trying to manage everything that was going on with my doctorate. And I developed ulcerative colitis. And so you see, it wasn't just CRPS, it wasn't just migraines, it wasn't just uh, the ulcerative colitis. It was a compounding effect of a whole bunch of things in my environment that were leading to my nervous system being hyperactive. And so when we ask a question like, why does it take so long to see a breakthrough? We often think, I'm doing all the things right physically. Why is my pain not coming down? Well, the reason for that is because there are extenuating factors, extrinsic factors in your life that are contributing to your nervous system being hyperactive. So I won't get too specific to Kayla to keep her privacy, but there are family dynamics that are challenging. We may be taking care of a parent who has Alzheimer or dementia, or dealing with financial struggles, or at a job that we absolutely hate and we don't see a way out of. We may have lost contact with some of our children, in the sense that they're upset with us for some reason. We may have had family members pass away. All of those things play a massive role in the level in which your nervous system is amplified. And getting to a breakthrough point there has to involve processing what happened. So for me, I had to really process the grief of losing my mother. I had to really process the grief of losing my brother. And until I was able to process those things and make those connections and see that reality, my pain or my headaches or my ulcerative colitis symptoms, they were all still there, serving as proxy for those emotions in a way. And I talk about this in depth in my online program and in some of my videos here on YouTube. But that's why it takes so long. We are not only reprogramming your nervous system from 7 years of CRPS, we are also reprogramming your nervous system from a life of, challenges, work challenges, marital challenges, relationship challenges, financial challenges. We've lived our lives, especially as people who end up with CRPS. I'll put this personality of CRPS individuals up on screen here. We have lived our lives in this way of trying to please others and emotionally hold things in so that other people around us aren't too affected, and care for others in extreme depth, and we chase certain levels of perfectionism and things, and it makes us really, really great, caring and kind, empathetic human beings. But it also primes our nervous system for it to reach a breaking point, and that breaking point could look like CRPS or headaches or ulcerative colitis. Other ways that we might demonstrate a breaking point is through gastroparesis or POTS, or all these other conditions that I talk about often. So to answer your question, it takes long because there's a lot of stuff for us to work on. And if we're working together and midway through working together, you have another tragic event happen, well, then of course it's going to be a longer process because there's a whole bunch of grief around what happened. So it's a challenge, and I feel for you in asking this question. But Kayla, I will see you on Monday, and we'll keep working on that breakthrough for you. This is going to be an up and down process, and I'm never going to give up. So we'll keep going. Wonderful question. I know a lot of people probably asking the same thing, and so good to have it here. Kathy, how are PN, pudendal neuralgia, and CRPS connected? So just kind of what I was explaining to Kayla, it doesn't really matter the label or the alphabet syndrome, as I call it, that you get. They're related because they're a consequence of the same problem. They're a consequence of what I call central sensitization, meaning a nervous system that has ramped up in sensitivity throughout our life due to the events in our life, whether it's traumatic emotional events, injuries or accidents, surgeries, etc. The nervous system is ramped up, ramped up, ramped up, and then it crosses this threshold, which I would call the breaking point, right? And once it gets above that threshold and we become centrally sensitized, we then develop symptoms that could look like CRPS or pudendal neuralgia. And honestly, it really just depends on the symptoms you're having for the diagnosis that you get. Okay, so if you go to the doctor and you say, I have chronic pain, or complex pain can, in my hand or in my foot. And then the doctor sees that, okay, there's pain, there's redness, there's swelling, there's changes to the hair or the nails. This fits the Budapest criteria. You have CRPS. But if you go to the doctor and you say, I have pain and it happens to be in my rectum area or in my groin area, well, then the doctor might say, oh, that might be the pudendal nerve. So therefore, you have pudendal neuralgia. Or if you go to the doctor and you say, I have pain here on the side of my face, and there's nothing showing up on scans, it's very confusing, and it's kind of in my jaw here, the doctor might say, oh, okay, this is the distribution of the trigeminal nerve. You have trigeminal neuralgia, right? So it doesn't matter the diagnosis. The plan is always the same. We want to calm down the nervous system. And the way that we would do that, I like to think of those videos of like stray cats or stray dogs. When you meet a stray cat on the street and you watch those videos of the rescuers trying to help the cat, if we run up to the cat and we just grab it, which is what happens in a lot of hospital environments or rehab facilities, unfortunately, um, the cat will freak out. It'll bite you, it'll claw at you, or you'll flare if you're someone dealing with CRPS or pudendal neuralgia. But if you slowly approach the cat or the hurt limb or the nervous system that's hyperactive, and you give it treats along the way, and you earn its trust, and you let it smell your hand, and those kinds of things, eventually at the end of those rescue videos with the animals, you see that animal's nervous system, the animal itself, calmed down. And usually those videos end happy with the animal running around and smiling, and you're crying by the end of the video. Animals have a nervous system just like humans. And what has happened with these alphabet syndromes, the PN and the CRPS and the trigeminal neuralgia and the POTS and all that, is the nervous system has reached that threshold of the stray cat that you see. The stray cat has been out on its own. It somehow, ran away from home and got lost. It spent nights by the busy highway with cars going by, honking, and it's been in fights with other animals, and it's been struggling to find food, and it's been cold, and its nervous system has become sensitized. It's become hyper alert, hyper aware. It is stuck in fight or flight. And us being stuck in fight or flight, just like the cat, we can calm that down through the same process, giving ourselves treats, which might look like food, but it might also look like caring for ourselves, trying to do things that we love and enjoy in a safe way, even if it's 5% of the actual activity. So sometimes with my clients, what I'll have them do is if they love painting, and they haven't painted in a long time because, it hurts to sit or their hands are affected, I'll say, hey, why don't we just find a paintbrush? Find one of your paintbrushes, dust it off, and just kind of set up your art area. And let's start there for this week. One task, one small effort, one small letting the nervous system sniff your hand, right? Letting the cat sniff your hand as a way to get there. So I've kind of gone on a little bit of a tangent here, but I feel like it's related. PN and CRPS are the same thing. We're just being diagnosed with a different alphabet syndrome. And so when I treat an individual with pudendal neuralgia, I'm not treating them that much differently in the way that I would treat CRPS. When I treat an individual with trigeminal neuralgia, same concept. Yes, we do desensitization on the face or desensitization in the groin or rectum area, but other than that, it's very similar. We need to look at life and all the things that have happened in life and how to process that to calm our nervous system. And we need to get back to physical activity. So the mind and body are two sides of the same coin. We cannot separate them and expect results. Okay, that is why you see everyone going to, physical providers and they get shots, injections, stimulators. They drink special, teas or take certain herbs, and they feel like that's going to help them fully get better. It doesn't, and you end up needing or being reliant on a substance or a treatment for the rest of your life. Whereas the difference here with what I do, and not just me, other people out there in the world, is I address not only the physical challenges, but also the emotional sides of CRPS as well, which I talked about a little bit in Kayla's question. So to answer your question, PN and CRPS aren't just connected, they're the same problem, in my opinion. Okay. So I hope that helps, Kathy. Wonderful question. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Michelle, elevator speech on how to explain CRPS to non-medical friends, coworkers, or casual conversations. So when it comes to casual conversations and a quick pitch of CRPS, basically what I would say to them, and this depends on your objective. Like if you're going to try and get someone who's never experienced CRPS to understand, you're going to be explaining until you're blue in the face and their eyes are going to glaze over and they're going to look at you like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That sounds wild. That is very sad that that's the case, but it's just the reality. And so a part of me says, don't explain. Who cares? I have a pain condition, and it tends to act up from time to time for unknown reasons, but I'm working on it. That's an easy explanation. But if you want a more, scientifically sound approach, basically say, I had an injury if you have CRPS type 2. And after that injury, my nerves stayed extra sensitive. And it takes a little bit of time for them to calm back down. It could take a month, it could take a year, but I'm working on calming it down. And CRPS is a syndrome where the nervous system is hypersensitive. And so, it's very important for me, if you are a little bit cautious, around my hand or around my leg, while I'm working on calming my nervous system back down. So something along that line would be great. But to be honest with you, for me, I stopped trying to explain because I knew that people weren't really going to understand what was happening to me anyways, because how could they? No fault of them. It's just impossible to understand unless you've experienced it. And I know that from being someone that experienced it. So yeah, easy elevator speech would be, I have a pain condition that has made my nerves extra sensitive, and it's going to take a little bit of time for them to learn to not feel that way. Or I had an injury, and that injury led to my nerves in my foot or my hand or my back being extra sensitive, and I'm working on calming that down. Or you can say it's a chronic condition and I'll probably have it for a while. You could also say that. But I like the framing of I'm working on it because that's not only good for your friends because it helps them understand that you're on a journey here, but it also is good for you mentally to say I'm working on it because that gives you back the control. Okay, so hope that helps. Great question. One I get a lot as well. I can see 6 or 7 people liked it. So Karina, I'm 8 months post neurodrogenate. I always say that wrong. Infusions, and my leg pain has decreased substantially, allowing me to exercise and do physical therapy. Needed to start walking again. I love that. Unfortunately, 6 weeks ago, I had 3 cavities extracted at the dentist, and this caused massive pain in my jaw. The dentist said the nerves were traumatized. Since then, I've had terrible pain in my jaw and the worst headaches I've ever had. Could this be related to the CRPS? And in that, it's my central nervous system still overly sensitive. How can I handle this situation? Medication does not relieve the pain, and I'm miserable. Oh, Karina, I'm so sorry. It sounds like we were making great progress with our infusions and some of the physical therapy and stuff. And then we went to the dentist and really got traumatized by the dentist. So not only did did he probably, cause some pain from, just dentists doing that? And I love dentists. My father was a dentist, but he also, and this is taught in my online course in Module 5, where I talk about placebo and nocebo, he noceboed you unbeknownst to him a little bit by saying that the nerves were traumatized. When you say something like that, that's kind of just a blanket statement. It can be really scary. And believe it or not, because fear and anxiety are processed in the same part of the brain as pain, can actually lead to more pain for you. Remember, even if nerves are traumatized, they can learn and adapt and calm down. This is evident by, for example, amputees. Their nerves are burned, cut, traumatized, but they don't have lasting pain for the rest of their life. Their limb or their stub of where they were amputated, it learns, it adapts, and it can normalize again. So even if the nerves were traumatized or damaged in this dental procedure, they will learn and calm down again as you, just as you said here, calm the central nervous system and calm down that sensitivity. So rest assured, this will calm down. It looks like this question was over a week ago. But I promise, stay the course, continue through my online course. I know you're in it. And over time, that sensitivity from the dental procedure will start to calm down as we heal up. Okay. So everything will be all right. Yes, this is in relationship to your central nervous system be overly sensitive, and it's also in relationship to that dentist. I'm sure he didn't mean anything by it, saying that the nerves were traumatized. That's really non-specific. It doesn't really say what happened or that he cut it or anything like that. Maybe they were just overly sensitized from the swelling in that area from that procedure, which is also probably why you were feeling the headaches. But as that swelling comes down, as you heal from the procedure, everything should go back to normal. Renee, no question here, just a shout out to you for helping our granddaughter through CRPS. Thank you, Chase. Oh, Renee, that's so nice. To give you guys some background, I am working with Renee's granddaughter, Lindsay, and Renee actually called me at one point when we were first working together for some clarity about my plan with Lindsay, because in the beginning, the process was real slow. And Lindsay was very fearful, wearing things like a knee brace, etc. And I reassured Grandma Renee that I would get Lindsay better. And actually, we are going to be filming Lindsay's testimony here in the beginning of March. Lindsay has burned her knee brace. She is now going up and down the stairs for the first time. And I'm just really excited about her progress. And I think she's going to keep doing fantastic. And so look out for Lindsay's testimonial in March. And no need to thank me, Renee. This is my passion, helping people overcome this fear and move forward. Karina, what if someone has suffered injuries that has increased pain, sensitization, and disability? Do they need to wait to start this program? Are there any cases where CRPS is too progressed to be able to improve with this program? Or do you believe that everybody can heal to some extent? Karina, great question. And actually, this was 2 weeks ago, so even before your dental question, and you've already started my program. So I reached out to you and answered that question in Messenger. But I see no reason why everyone can't retrain their nervous system to function in a more proper way. Okay. So, even if you've had injuries and increased pain and you've been sensitized and you've been on disability, you don't have to wait to start the program. In fact, that would be the perfect time to start the program. Just so you know, the online program is lifetime access. So as long as it's on the internet, you have access to it. It's self-paced. You can go at any pace that you want, and you can, start over and rewatch videos as many times as you want. And the online program is constantly updated. So since it launched last year on February 1st of 2025, I have updated the program probably over 45 times with new videos, redone lectures, made them better, added more toolkits, etc. So there is no wrong time to start the program. And I do firmly believe that everyone, regardless of the time or how many years or progression of CRPS, that you can improve. significantly. So if you want some examples of that, you can watch Renee's testimony. She had CRPS for 35 years and is now pain-free. You can also watch Christina's testimony. She had CRPS for 10 years, met me when she was in a wheelchair, pain in her arm and both her legs, and is now pain-free. Or Jacqueline's testimony. She had CRPS for a number of years, went to Spiro Clinic and spent over $50,000 with little to no relief. And now she's pain-free. So yes, anyone and everyone can benefit from the program. And I'm not just saying that. I firmly believe that, and I'm proving it with those testimonies that I just showed you. Jonathan, hello everyone. My question is probably pretty simple, but I feel like I should give you some background into it first. I had a spinal fusion surgery to L4 S1 in 2022, then got a spine stimulator in June of 2025. About 3 weeks later, I started having pain for no reason in the ball of my left foot. Man, that sounds familiar, Jonathan. It turned into CRPS and had now affected both legs basically from the knee down. At one point, I was healing and doing really good with it when it was just the ball of my foot. But ever since it started spreading, it has gotten worse and worse. It attacked the bottoms of my feet on Christmas Eve, 2025. And I just decided to walk on the new flare up all day. That was a huge mistake, and I've not even been able to walk or drive or even wear shoes since Christmas. My question is this: I'm only 7 months in, and I'm still in an enormously painful flare up. Is it too soon to start the program? I feel like the desensitization stuff will not have a good chance to work unless I wait until the flare up dies down. Jonathan, first of all, I am so sorry to hear all the stuff that you're dealing with. That is a long time to deal with pain, not only the CRPS, but the back pain itself. And it is a scary thing to go through, the experience of the nervous system becoming more sensitive and the pain spreading around. One thing I want to say to you is no, it's not too soon to start the program. And actually, you're one of the individuals that asked this question and then started the program, which I'm very glad to have you in it. I've seen your comments and I've been responding to them, so I hope you see them. But to be a little bit more direct, I want you to really think about, as you did in the first module of the program, the timeline, really think about what was going on leading up to your spinal surgeries and your spinal fusion. So what was happening in 2022? I also want you to think about what was the significance of Christmas this year? Why Christmas Eve? There has to be a reason. I really want you to start to think about the reasons that this pain might be here from an emotional standpoint. The things I know for you is that your father is dealing with a medical health condition that is really challenging, would be really challenging for anyone, especially a son who loves their father. I also know that you are not feeling supported at home in certain ways by someone that's in the household with you. Those things are really important. And the fact that you are having pain in your legs, I don't think is coincidence. A lot of times we develop pain in our legs when we are having a hard time standing up for ourselves or putting our foot down. We also develop pain in our back when we have had a lot of things to carry for a number of years. So please think about that as you go through my program and as you learn and as you approach module 7. I think you're in module 3 or 4 right now. And please know that it is never too soon to start desensitization. Just like the stray cat that's out stranded on the road, we want to slowly approach him so that he can learn that he is safe. And desensitization is the way that we do that from a physical standpoint. So, Jonathan, I am thinking about you. I am sending my thoughts and my prayers your way as you go through my online program. And take a big, deep breath for me. Things are going to be okay. I think that a big part of the pain that you're experiencing is your fear of CRPS in and of itself. You use words here in your question like attacked, right? And I've seen other questions where you use words like falling apart. Those words have a lot of weight. And I promise you, CRPS is not a venom that is attacking your body. Yes, it is painful, but it is 100% something that we can calm down and start to reduce that pain in both your legs. Okay, so I look forward to meeting with you in a consult later on this year. But in the meantime, take a big deep breath. Think about some of these things in your life that may be contributing to your pain, and see how maybe we can address them or change some of the dynamics around them too. Okay. Yesy, if the left side of your body is more sensitized than the right side, does this eventually go back to normal as the nervous system regulates, or do you need some sort of brain exercises to strengthen the side that is more sensitized? Okay, so as your nervous system regulates, yes, that will go back to normal, but exercises for that side of your body would be a great thing to do. Okay. You can do this through apps like Laterality or Recognize. I'll put them both on the screen here. Those apps are a good way to practice. If you don't want to get those apps, just get a magazine. Any magazine, go somewhere and get some, or if you have one laying around, and flip through the magazine. Hopefully, it has people in it, and just circle all of the left hands, or all of the right feet, or all of the left feet. And what you're doing in this way is you're visualizing what a right and left hand or right and left foot look like. And that is training your brain to understand the nervous system from a visual standpoint. Okay. So that is one exercise you can do. You can use the Laterality or Recognize app as well, which is kind of the same thing. It's just showing you flashcards of different feet and hands, and you have to identify, is it a left or is it a right? That's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is not really as much a brain exercise as a nervous system exercise, but through my online course and also here on YouTube, I have my desensitization series of videos, and doing the desensitization activities on the more sensitive side will train it to be less sensitive. So those activities include my textured desensitization, the KT tape method that I use, my vibration plate, foot bath method that I use, as well as mirror therapy methods that I use, and things like that. Those are all encompassed in these 3 videos here and in module 4 of my online course in a little more depth. Okay, so to answer your question, yes, it will go back to normal. We just need to train it. Okay. So nervous system or neuroplasticity is what got us here. Neuroplasticity is what will bring us out as well. Donna, hi Chase. What are some hand and wrist exercises to help with joint pain from the cold weather? Thank you. Hey Donna. So you can find the answer to this in my desensitization video number 2, I believe. I go over some wrist exercises. If not number 2, it's definitely number 3. But honestly, any exercises that are working on your grip strength. So you could get something like a gyro ball from Amazon. It's a ball that you get in your hand, and it spins in a certain way, and you spin it the other way, and that strengthens your wrist. You can also get grip training rings. You can get grip training stress balls, all on Amazon. Anything like that is going to help your pain in the cold weather because you're increasing blood flow and you're increasing the use of those muscles in this cold weather. So that is what I would suggest to help with any joint pain that you're having. Putting stress through the muscles and the hand is the thing that's going to help alleviate that pain. Gradually. So depending on where you're at, you want to do this gradually. And I break that down a little bit more specifically in those videos that I've mentioned. All right. So Ruth asks, do you only deal with CRPS type 1? And Jody replied there correctly, all CRPS. And that's a great question, Ruth. And it's actually a question I get a lot. And I'm assuming you are diagnosed with CRPS type 2, which is why you're asking. Just so you know, the majority of my clients actually have CRPS type 2, and I myself technically was diagnosed with CRPS type 2 as well. There is really no difference between CRPS type 1 and type 2, or CRPS NOS, not otherwise specified, which is a third version. And I want to kind of explain what it even means when we see CRPS type 1 and type 2, because there's a lot of misconception about that. Oftentimes, because of the terminology that is used with CRPS, types, spreading, remission, stages, If I was to just go up to you and say, I have a condition that has types, it can spread, it has stages, and you can go into remission, what condition do you think I am talking about? And most people in the lay public would say cancer. And so when we're using those terms, which I think is a bad thing about CRPS, we use those types of terms, we automatically get into this fear cycle of what is happening with us. And we assume that the typing of CRPS means that they're different. But that is not the case at all. When we talk about CRPS type 1 or CRPS type 2 or CRPS NOS, these are the only differences. Type 1 is CRPS that came on insidiously, which means without a known cause or origin. So, for example, I've had clients who just woke up and suddenly had a pain in their elbow, and it just became more and more and more painful, and then they were diagnosed with CRPS. There's no known origin, no assumed injury or surgery or nerve damage. That's CRPS type 1. No known cause or specific damage to a nerve. CRPS type 2 is if you had an injury or a surgery and then you were diagnosed with CRPS. There is an assumed feeling that a nerve was damaged and therefore you got CRPS from a nerve damage. So CRPS type 2 is CRPS with suspected damage to a nerve. Okay. When we are diagnosing and we're checking the diagnosis box in the medical record, we can check diagnosis CRPS type 1, meaning insidiously, or we can check CRPS type 2. If we don't check that box, or if we didn't do enough due diligence to ask you how the CRPS came on, the third thing is CRPS, and then we didn't specify type 1 or type 2. And so on your medical chart, it says CRPS not otherwise specified or NOS. It's literally just the information in the medical chart. It does not mean that you have a special CRPS because it's NOS. It does not mean that type 1 and type 2 and NOS treatments are different at all. The approach is still the same. In my documentary video with Lydia, Christina, Adam, and Matt, all four of them are CRPS type 2. Lydia had surgery on her knees, then developed CRPS. Christina had surgery on her ankle or an injury to her ankle and then developed CRPS. Adam had his own injuries and surgeries, and so did Matt. Those are all CRPS type 2. So if you're wondering if I only deal with CRPS type 1, no, not at all. There is plenty of individuals with CRPS type 2 that I've helped. All of those in the documentary included. And then there's plenty of individuals that I've also helped with type 1 that show up in some of my testimonial videos that you can check out in the Overcoming CRPS series on my YouTube and also on my website. But great question. It is a question I get a lot. I view the types as the same condition, and the process for which I treat those types is exactly the same. Any information that's out there about needing a specialized treatment that's different for each type, I just flat out disagree with. And I prove that that's not necessary in my testimonial videos. So, yeah, that to answer your question, yes, all types of CRPS, just like Jody said. And Ruth is actually my aunt's name, so it has a special place in my heart. So thanks, Ruth, for your question. Bonnie, I developed CRPS in my right ankle, foot, lower leg after breaking both ankles, and I'm afraid it could be spreading to my other foot by the way it feels sometimes. How do you know if it's starting to spread? Also, I would like to ask you what you think of getting a spinal stimulator. I'm already scheduled to speak to a psychologist first thing in the morning, which I don't understand why that is required before getting an STS. And I've had my MRI as well. So after appointment in the morning, I'm assuming surgery will be scheduled pretty soon. What are your thoughts on getting a stimulator? I've heard positive and negative, and just afraid of having it done. Thoughts? Okay, Bonnie. First of all, wow, breaking both ankles. I am so sorry. You don't specify how that happened, but I'm sorry it happened. That's scary and no fun. That is for sure. The fear of spread is a big thing that a lot of people had and have, and I promise you that is not a venom that is spreading through your body. What is happening is your nervous system is getting more and more amplified, And the brain, the way it maps our body, is mapped like this. It's mapped in a mirror pattern. So in this image that I'm going to show you on screen here, you can see that the right and left foot are mirrored across from each other, and the right and left hand are mirrored across from each other. So as your brain and body and nervous system become more sensitized, sometimes you have that mirroring effect of pain. It is not a venom that has spread from one leg to the other. It is just the nervous system becoming more sensitized. If we can calm down the nervous system through, a gradual process, we will calm down that sensitivity. And this piggybacks to why I actually disagree with spinal stimulators. I think that they can be helpful for some people, and that is wonderful. I don't think you've done something wrong if you've got it and it's been helpful. But I think statistically, they are not very supported for CRPS. And to give you further detail on that, down in the pinned comment below, I'm going to have a link to my newsletter about spinal cord stimulators with a bunch of research as well supporting my stance on them. But a stimulator is the idea is that it's stimulating your nerves to calm down the pain. Well, you don't need a $50,000 device implanted in your spine to do that. You can stimulate the nerves by touching your leg or moving your toes. If I wanted to stimulate the nerves in my fingers, I'm doing that right now. I can touch the stubble on my beard, non-existent beard, and stimulate the nerves in my fingers. So if a stimulator is helping the pain, maybe we should try to stimulate our nervous system and use neuroplasticity to help retrain the body so we don't need an outside device for it. Okay. So my stance on spinal stimulators is that they are not the best. The outcomes are not great for CRPS. Percentage wise, it's pretty low. So I would be careful with that. And I've actually already reached out to you in messages. So I hope that you've done some research and read that newsletter. And then lastly, you're scheduled with a psychologist first thing tomorrow. The reason they do that is because they want to make sure you are cognitively sound to make the decision to have the device implanted. Because if the device doesn't work properly, which a lot of the time it doesn't, they don't want to be sued. So that's why. There are a lot of active lawsuits around spinal cord stimulators right now, big ones. And so just so you're informed, there's a reason for that. Okay. So be careful there. Jody, what happens if you have a tendency to overdo it on activity most of the time? The friend I'm asking for, wink face, can't moderate very well and usually ends up in recovery for days after. Do you always eventually get stronger and all good, or are you sending wrong messages to the brain and prolonging recovery? What I say is it depends on the amount of days. So if you are, or if this friend of yours is exercising or doing something and they are then laid up for a week, I would say we're pushing it a little too far. However, if you are exercising or doing something and you're the general time frame I give is 24 to 48 hours. If you're flared up or in pain for 24 to 48 hours and then it's starting to calm down, you're probably in the good range of growth. The way I look at it is this. When I'm training, like weight training, my objective is to be sore. Okay. If my arms are not sore or hurting a little bit after my training, this is for anyone, any athlete. If you aren't hurting a bit after your training, you're probably not stimulating a lot of growth. With CRPS, there is the normal human being, normal nervous system level of soreness. And then you have to stack the CRPS level on top. Okay. So there's an expected level of soreness plus CRPS soreness on top. The more that we train and the more that we stimulate ourselves within a safe range, so 24 to 48 hours of soreness or flare, the more that CRPS level soreness will start to level out and come down. And then we want to push ourselves again. Okay. And the reason for that is we want to continue to get stronger. We want to stimulate our nervous system. We want to get the blood flowing. But we also don't want to go run a marathon every day or go put ourselves in a place where we're flared for a week and then we don't get to go back to the gym and do some work because we're hurt too much. Right. You're not damaging anything per se, but we want to give the nervous system time to regulate and calm down. So if you're feeling pain during it and it calms down right after, or you're feeling pain for 24 to 48 hours, you're in a fine range. If you're pushing beyond that and you go exercise and then you can't do anything for 7 days, that would be a little bit too much. So I hope that answers your question. 24 to 48 hours of flare or increased pain, and then a return to baseline. Your baseline could be 2 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 8 out of 10, could be 9 out of 10. As long as you're returning to baseline, you're all right. You're good to go. So I hope that helps, Jody. And actually, my other aunt's name is Jody. So funny, everyone's coming out of the woodwork. Yeah, great names, Ruth and Jody. Denis, I am in a flare right now, and I'm staying as positive as possible. Tonight, I am awake due to burning. What are some ways to lower the burning? Burning is usually in my right leg and foot, but tonight the burning is in the bottom of my left foot. I have compound ointments. What do you think of using compound ointments? Why does cold weather make CRPS pain get worse? Thank you, from Denis. And she said for me to stay warm. I am very warm. It's 75 here in Houston, Denis, but 2 weeks ago when you sent this, it was freezing for the first time in a while in Houston. So I did stay warm. Thank you very much. And sorry to hear that you were having a flare and dealing with burning. Actually, I got a few questions about burning and how to deal with burning. And honestly, to help address burning, I would need to know more about your specific case, because I need to understand why the burning is happening or if it's always, et cetera, et cetera. I don't mind compound ointments. They're fine. My general consensus on any type of treatment is, have you heard success stories about it? Do you believe in it? Um, is it low cost? Is it something you don't have to do for life? And what else? Have you heard success stories? Do you believe it? Is it low cost? Is it something you don't have to do for life? If you can answer yes to all four of those questions, then I'm for it. Okay. Oh, and fifth, is it non-invasive? So, compound ointments are usually low cost. A lot of people have heard good things about it, which is good. Um, they aren't invasive. You're not cutting open your body or installing some sort of implant, and you don't have to use it for the rest of your life. I'm all for it. Good, good, good by me. So compound ointment's totally cool. When it comes to burning, the first thing I'll say is usually a counter for burning is to use something cool. Okay, so you could use a lukewarm water or cold water foot bath. You could use ice packs. I know that's controversial, but ice is actually one of the myths of CRPS that ice is bad. The idea that ice is bad is based on a single study that is cited on a nonprofit organization's website. I won't name names. That basically was a case study, which means they used only one individual, and that individual left ice on for something like 17 hours and got frostbite. And that is why they say ice is bad for CRPS. In science, in medicine, we cannot use a single study to base our theories on. And so ice does not have a detrimental effect on CRPS, just only ice for, 10 to 20 minutes and then take the ice pack off for at least about an hour and then you can put it back on. So if the burning is really bad, you can try to use an ice pack or some lukewarm water or something like that to calm down the burning. Then when it comes to desensitizing burning, that's when I need to understand more about your personal story. So the burning could be due to blood flow changes. It could be due to nervous tension or nerve tension. And there's different exercises for those types of things with burning. So you'd have to reach out to me and schedule a free consult for me to get more specific there. But on my online course, I talk about a bunch of different desensitization things. And as you do those things, burning as a symptom, along with pain and other things, will start to come down just naturally as the nervous system calms down. So I hope that helps for Denis and for everyone else that was asking about burning. Use the counter of burning, which would be something cool for those moments when things are really bad, and then go ahead and watch my desensitization videos to look about how to calm down the nervous system as a whole. Jen, I have steady improvements in my physical pain. I can walk a block without my cane. Let's go. I am currently on pregabalin and alendronate, and recently neodronate. Neorodronate. See, I told you I always pronounce that wrong. Treatment in Italy. but my nervous system is in flight as if I'm running a marathon on the inside of my body and I can't stop. I tried yoga, Pilates, meditation, compression garments. What more can I do? I love this question, Jen, because it is just a generalized showcase of my theory itself. You have tried all of the physical treatments when it comes to CRPS. You've even dabbled into some of the mental and emotional treatments like meditation. But in order for me to help you bridge that gap, remember, we're two sides of the same coin. We have the physical stuff and we have the emotional stuff. We need to merge it. And so if you were working with me, what I would say when it comes to what more can I do, I would say look at your life in general and what has led you to be in a state where you're in fight or flight. So, for example, an animal gets in fight or flight when a lion is chasing it. Okay, so a zebra getting chased by a lion, it's going like this, breathing really fast. Its digestion is slowing down, its muscles are tensing up, its eyes are dilating, its ears are listening more because it's in fight and flight. It's in sympathetic overload and it needs to hear everything around it. It needs to see where it's running in order to get away from the lion. When the zebra gets away from the lion, it goes like this. Oh, I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm at peace. The lion is over there doing something. I don't care about the lion. Humans are different because our lions come in the form of the job that we hate, the marriage that's falling apart, the children that aren't speaking to us and hiding our grandchildren away, our parents being ill and us needing to take care of them. Those are our lions. And so we don't very much get an opportunity to go, oh, I am safe. And so for me to help you learn what more you can do, this is something I teach in my online course, but I help you identify your personal lions, and then we figure out how to get to a point where you go, I'm safe. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. You're doing all the right stuff. No doubt. No doubt. You're doing great. You're getting to a point where you can walk without your cane. That's awesome. But we need to get that other half to bridge that gap that you've currently reached. Okay. You're at a crossroads here. And that second half of CRPS, which medicine misses all the time, is the next avenue to help. Okay. Robin, how do you feel about the doc recommendations of 30 minutes of cardio each day for CRPS? I try to do every single day, but have to take breaks because my legs get like jello. Laugh out loud. Also, do you think it is sometimes okay to push through pain? So, Robin, I would say that it's generally good to do cardiovascular exercise, but if your legs are getting to the point where it feels like jello or you're in a bunch of pain, think of another form of cardio to do. Like if you want to follow that recommendation, no problem. I think cardiovascular exercise is wonderful, but you could do another form of cardio. If you have access to a gym, you might be able to find a cardio machine that is all arms. Okay, so you're still getting cardio, but you're not affecting your legs as much. You might be able to find a way to do cardio for 30 minutes that is on like a seated recumbent bicycle, so it's not as much pressure on your legs and doesn't leave them feeling like jello. I think that those are ways to still accomplish that goal of cardio. Sometimes the doctor says, oh, do 30 minutes of cardio each day. And we think, oh, I got to go out and run or go for a jog. No, you can do cardio in a lot of ways. If you do 30 minutes of push-ups on your knees, with breaks in between, that's technically 30 minutes of cardio, depending on how fast you're doing it. So cardio can be a lot of things. Cardio can also be cooking. If you enjoy cooking and you want to cook and you're doing a very involved dish and you're hitting the fridge and the stove and all that kind of stuff, that's technically cardiovascular exercise, especially if you get a little bit like to the point where you're a little bit winded. That's technically cardiovascular exercise. So don't get too rigid with doing that 30 minutes of cardio each day in a specific way. Get creative, make it fun. It can be anything. Could be handing out coffee at church for 30 minutes. That could be cardio. So yeah, get creative with it. And then when I say, do you think it's sometimes okay to push through pain? Yes, I do. Going back to the question that I had earlier, as long as you are not causing yourself a flare for more than 48 hours and you're still returning to baseline after that, you're in a safe zone to push into some discomfort. And in fact, we have to push into discomfort to learn. Imagine learning a new language. it through neuroplasticity, just like we would with pain, and never challenging yourself with a difficult conversation where you're like just on the edge of your ability to speak, you would never learn that language. The only way your body's going to learn the language of safety when doing activity is to be on that edge of difficult, that edge of painful, that edge of awkward and uncomfortable. Just like learning a new language, we're learning the language of safety physically for our body. So, yeah, hope that answers your question. Yeah, see, if you are on medication to help symptoms because you can't do it without at the moment, does desensitization work? That does the desensitization work you put in while on the medication sustain the results you are achieving after you taper off? Yes, absolutely. So think of this. If you are taking a medication. So let's say you're taking like Lyrica or pregabalin or some other nervous system relaxant, or you're taking a muscle relaxer or something like that. What that medication is doing is it's essentially putting noise canceling headphones over your pain. So if you're listening to this video right now, take your hands, the palms of your hands, and cup them over your ears and just start talking or just start listening to me talking. It's going to sound muffled. Okay. If my ears are extra sensitive and I need to use headphones to get used to loud noises or protect from too loud of noises, that's totally okay. I'm still going to learn to be in noisy environments gradually, just in a way that isn't as hard. Okay. And so if you're on, let's say Lyrica or gabapentin or one of these nervous system depressants, and you are doing the desensitization work, all you're doing is using a tool temporarily to help you be able to tolerate the desensitization work. The key here is temporarily. I want the medications, whatever you're on, I don't like them, but they're fine to use as a bridge, not as a road. So if you need to use a painkiller, you need to use gabapentin or Lyrica or something like that for a short time to get to where you want to go, that's totally cool. Just think of it as a tool, a device like noise canceling headphones to help you get there in a way that feels more safe. Just like the zebra that was getting chased by the lion at the end that goes, "Oh, I feel safe." We want to have continual moments throughout our rehab process of feeling safe to do things. So if medication helps you achieve that as a bridge that we eventually get off of, um, I'm totally okay with that. And you are not hurting yourself in any way being on the medication while doing desensitization. Okay. Hope that answers your question. And if you're deciding to taper off, please, please, please talk with your provider and explain to them, hey, I'd like to taper off. Can you help me do it safely? Okay. But yeah, awesome question. Matthew says, Matthew is one of my clients featured in the documentary Freedom from the Fire. He says, for myself, CRPS is like a roller coaster. The more you go around, the easier it becomes to overcome. And I love this comment from Matthew. It's not a question, but this is the truth, okay? CRPS is most definitely like a roller coaster. A uh, graph that I show a lot of times is the road to recovery chart. And there's two different charts, and I'll show it on screen here. One chart has a line going straight up. We think that the recovery is going to be like that. But in reality, the recovery is going to be more like the other chart, which has a line that's kind of a squiggly roller coaster. We are going to have ups and downs all throughout the journey. I remember I went to the gym for the first time and I had a great workout. I was using my walker. I didn't have my shoe on, and I was really weak, but it felt really good to be back in the gym. And I was doing good, doing good, doing good at the gym. And then suddenly one day after one of my workouts, I had like a crazy flare and I panicked. I thought I messed things up. I thought this was going to be my new normal. I was going to be just screwed for the rest of my life. And for like a month, I didn't go back to the gym. And then finally, I got over the fear because my flare ended like after a week, but I got over the fear of going back to the gym and I went again. And I went for a while and it went really good. I actually even started wearing a shoe again and it was going great. And then one day I woke up and both my legs were fully red. And of course, I panicked again and I got worried and I was scared and I thought I ruined something. And so I was riding that very roller coaster that Matt was talking about. But the more that I did that, the more that I noticed my body having these weird and annoying symptoms, the less I cared, the less I let it drive me into fear. And the more I just rose to the challenge of what was ahead of me. And over time, I cared less and less and less, and I feared less and less and less. And then eventually, one day I realized, wow, I haven't had pain in 3 weeks. And that was, you know, 7 years ago now. So yeah, this is a roller coaster. It is not a fun ride, but eventually we will be able to get off. So great comment, Matt. I really love that. All right, next question. So first of all, thank you guys so much for these great questions and comments. I really enjoy and have missed making these videos. So please, as a reminder, make sure to leave comments down in the comments below with questions for Q&A number 10, which will likely be out in just a few weeks here. So leave those questions below if you have some as we're going through this, and I'll be sure to answer them. And please don't be worried about having a repeat question from one of the other Q&As. Repetition is the father of learning, and especially when we're in a state of a lot of fear and anxiousness. So duplicate questions are more than welcome. I'm happy to answer them multiple times in different ways each time. So please do ask whatever question you have. It is not too specific. It is not stupid. I'm welcoming that question. So would love to answer it. To answer Lynn's question, Lynn is saying, do you have to have pain? Can you have CRPS without pain, but rather vascular skin and temperature changes? And then what do you do when one doctor says you have CRPS and the other says you don't? So, Lynn, CRPS is diagnosed through firstly exclusion. So they're making sure that there's no other main thing that is happening, that is easily identifiable. And then they use the Budapest criteria for CRPS. This is the gold standard for diagnosis. There is no other test that identifies CRPS. Bone scans do not do that. EMGs do not do that. Those are used to rule things out. CRPS is diagnosed through the Budapest criteria, which I'll put on screen here. For you to have the diagnosis, you need to have greater than one symptom in three or more categories listed on the Budapest criteria here. So, one symptom in sensory, one symptom in vasomotor, one system in pseudomotor, and one system in motor category. Okay. You need at least three categories there where you have a symptom there. And then the provider needs to observe at least one sign in two or more categories. Okay. So you might go to a doctor one day and you might not have color changes. And so that doctor might not see or observe that sign that day. And if you don't have a picture to show them, they won't diagnose you with CRPS because you're not matching the criteria. Whereas you might go another day and you might be all lit up red and swelling and sweating, and the doctor might say, oh, yeah, this is CRPS. So that might happen. One doctor might diagnose you and the other won't. However, if the doctor's being rude, I just want you to know, Lynn, doctors are not God. You can switch doctors. You do not have to listen to doctors that are not kind to you or don't take the time to listen to you. Doctors are not God. Often we put doctors on pedestals and sometimes they don't deserve it. So if you're going to one doctor and they're saying, yeah, I think this is CRPS and they're trying to help you, just go to that doctor. Screw the other doctor. So yeah, for lack of better language, yeah, forget them, either way, you need some help. Either way, you're suffering. So let's figure out a path for you there. And I think you're in my online course, Lynn. So I hope you do start it soon. And some of these questions will actually be answered for you in the online course. So it's there for you anytime. Let's see. Can you explain warm water therapy? Are there pros and cons to it? Example exercises for underwater. Okay, so warm water therapy, I think what you're talking about is aquatic therapy because they have to keep the pool between a certain warm temperature. There's definite pros to it. If you want to talk about noise canceling headphones, like we talked about with medication, water itself is noise canceling for the nervous system. So, for example, just imagine right now going from above water to underwater and what that does for sound, just for your ears. It muffles it in the same way that those headphones do. Well, water actually does that for your entire nervous system. It muffles sound. It has a small compression effect on your body. The waves moving help with blood flow, help with swelling. You can do exercises underwater that you might not be able to do if you're in pain. Like, for example, if you can't stand, being in the water might be really helpful. Christina, my client that went from wheelchair to walking in just about 6 months and actually ran a 5K with me, she went to a pool and did water therapy with her dad. So water therapy is really great because what's happening is it's taking the weight off of your legs and off of your body and allowing you to move around underwater. If you want example exercises underwater, you can get these weighted wrist wraps that you go in the water with, and you move your arms like this. You move your arms up and down like this. You can do kicks in the water. So if your feet are the things affected, you can hold onto the side of the pool and you can do some. So we can't see my feet, but you can do some kicks with your feet like this. There's all kinds of things you can do in the water that would be harder to do outside of the water. And then you get the soothing feeling of the warm water. So yeah, if someone's suggesting aquatic therapy or warm water therapy to you, Michelle, go for it. Give it a try. Worst case, if you don't like it, yeah, you don't have to keep doing it. So yeah, give it a shot. I think it's very effective and very helpful. And actually, believe it or not, my brother is a physical therapist just like me, and 2 days out of the week he does warm water therapy with people. So if you guys are in Iowa and looking for a PT, just let me know and I can send you my brother's way. Sonia, I just purchased your 8 week self-guided program. The skin sensitivity has progressed during the 7 years of CRPS. Can that go away? Yes, absolutely. It can go away. Remember, that sensitivity is our nervous system building, 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 becoming more sensitized, and we just have to calm that down. So let me give you another example to help you with this. On a bad day, on a Monday, okay, it's super let's flip this around. On a Friday, it's super sunny outside. You just got paid. You're going to go to dinner with someone you really enjoy being around. You're eating at your favorite restaurant. Afterwards, you're going to go to a great movie. And on the way out the door, you stub your toe on the coffee table. And this is without CRPS, right? You stub your toe. It hurts a little bit, right? But on a Monday, if it's rainy outside, you just had an argument with your friend or your spouse, you just got a random bill in the mail you didn't expect, and you're already behind on the bills, and you got to go to a job you hate, and then you got to heat up that leftover junk that's in the fridge since Friday, and you're not sure if it's any good or moldy or what. You're just having a bad day. And on your way out the door, you stub your toe. Which day hurts worse? I know all of you right now are saying, well, Monday, obviously. Well, what's the difference? Same toe, same coffee table, same force, same stubbing, but the pain is worse. Well, the difference is the extenuating factors that had led to your nervous system being more sensitive. The bills, the job that you don't want to go to, the food that's not going to be good. All of that led to extra sensitivity. Whereas on Friday, as the week went on and you got closer to the weekend, your sensitivity went down. Then on Friday, you stub your toe, it doesn't really hurt. That is what happens with CRPS, except it's over a way longer period of time, and it takes a much longer period of time to calm the sensitivity down. So your skin sensitivity, it progressed because things were getting more chaotic. We were getting more afraid of CRPS. Well, we can also calm it back down and get your body to more of a Friday feeling all the time instead of a Monday feeling all the time. So I hope that analogy works. I hope it's helpful to understand just kind of how neuroplasticity and nervous system training goes. But yes, it can go away, I promise. And if you need proof of that, go watch any of my overcoming CRPS videos to see how we do it. Al, can you give me some tips for riding out a flare, please? Al, yes. So, I always find the word flare fascinating. And the reason I find it fascinating is because language is really important to me. When we talk about a flare, what is the purpose of a flare? And I'm not talking about a CRPS flare. I'm talking about just a flare in general. So let's say I'm stranded on an island and I shoot a flare up into the air. What am I trying to do? Why am I shooting that flare? Well, typically shooting that flare means I'm trying to draw attention to myself on the island so people can rescue me. A flare is a signal for attention. And what I mean by that is your body is having pain, having a symptom, and it's acting as a signal for us to pay attention to something. In a normal system, it's pay attention to the foot that's hurt. Like if I sprained my ankle, it's technically flared with pain. I need to pay attention to help my ankle feel better. With CRPS, the ankle isn't hurt anymore. The flare is oftentimes a false alarm, or it's an alarm that's for something completely unrelated. So if you're having a flare, the first thing I want you to do is think, what is going on right now in my life emotionally that could be the reason for this flare? So one of my clients, Dalton, recently reached out to me and said his pain was up. Then I said, Dalton, why do you think it's up? What's going on? And he said, well, my dog died last year at this time. It was the night before the anniversary of his dog's passing, and he was feeling emotional about it. And I said, Dalton, why don't you find some pictures of your dog, and why don't you write your dog a letter about how much you miss her, and why don't you see what happens? And he just messaged me today and said the pain is starting to come down. So, Al, you may not be able to find anything right away, but I want you to think about what's going on in my life during the times that I'm having a flare. What is the pattern? Is it Sunday night every week before work that I have the flare? Is it every time my father-in-law calls my wife that I have the flare, and complains on the phone? What are the reasons that that flare emotionally might be there? And then, if you can't find a reason, sometimes you can't, sometimes there's no reason. Then I just want you to comfort yourself. If there was a child that came to you and was having a was upset emotionally or having a tantrum, what would you do for them? And then think, what would I do for little Al? What would I do for me? For me, if I'm having a bad day, believe it or not, guilty pleasure of mine, the first thing I want to do is make a s'more on my stove because I love s'mores and I love bonfires, but I want to go to the effort of making a bonfire, especially in Texas when it's like 90. But s'mores are delicious. My stove is easily accessible, and I feel better when I have a s'more and drink a glass of almond milk afterwards. So, what do you need during that flare? What do you need to care for yourself during that time? We're riding out the flare, and so be gentle with yourself and think about, what does little Al want? Okay. I hope that question helps, but anything that makes you feel calm is what you should do when you're riding out a flare for sure. And remind yourself this actually, the final thing in a saying I say a lot: flares are called flares because eventually they burn out. Okay. So just remember that. Deborah, why, when I go to see a physician after clearly explaining I have CRPS and do not wish to be touched, it is a game the entire time I'm there for them to try to touch, poke, stick a pin and a pen on it or as close as they possibly can, despite seeing me squirm and get emotional because I'm in fear of them now. Yeah, Deborah, I'm really sorry that you've had that kind of experience. It breaks my heart to know that there is a lack of respect sometimes in the medical community for your wishes. We have to remember that some of these physicians or some of these doctors are scientists at heart. And so they get curious, and that doesn't excuse what they're doing, but some of the time they're so curious that it's hard for them to help themselves. That's not an excuse. And so if you go to a physician that's like that and doesn't respect your wishes, remember they are not God, and you can go to a different one. So sometimes it takes some time to shop around a little bit to find someone that you'd like to work with. But yeah, I'm sorry that that happens. It's frustrating. I'm sorry that you are in fear of them now to the point where you feel emotional. I would just try to find another one if you feel like you need to see someone like that. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm no stranger to that experience. So that's really frustrating. Danella, how to reset your nervous system when it won't shut off, when the breathing, meditation, etc. don't stop the mind finding a problem for every solution. Danella, I've answered this a little bit in other questions, but I'm going to answer it another way for you. Why or when do you think you first learned that you needed to find a problem for every solution. Think about that a little deeply. When in your life do you think you first needed to start solving everything? And what did that do for you? Okay, so for example, when I was 12, my family became a foster to adopt household. And I was the oldest in the house at the time. My older brother was already out of the house, but I was 12. My little brother was 9, and we started getting foster kids in the house. And these foster kids came from all walks of life. And for a number of years, we had somewhere around 14 that came in and out. And for me, it became my job, my mission to care for those kids. Anything that was going on with them, I was trying to figure out what was happening and how I could help. That was great for that time of my life. I learned a lot of great skills. But then what happened is I grew up and that transpired into my romantic relationships. It came into my professional relationships. I started getting so good at seeing everyone else's problems that I was just adamant at finding a solution. And a lot of you are hearing this and you're saying, whoa, that's me. I kind of am that problem solver. I kind of am that natural caretaker. I kind of am that people pleaser. And that's not coincidence. Like I said, and I'll put it on screen again, we all share a personality and there's a reason for that. And so, firstly, Danella, I would try to understand when it was that we felt like we needed to find solutions for every problem or find a problem for every solution, and then try to explore the emotional weight behind that and what that means. So, for a lot of people, that'll be in childhood. For some people, it will be in a turbulent relationship. But that's a big reason the nervous system won't shut off. At some point, we learned that in order to stay safe, we needed a solution to every problem. For me, I needed to have something to comfort the child that had come to my house from an abusive home in that moment. And I got very, very, very good at that. But what happens then is I got bad at that for myself because my needs stopped mattering and everyone else's needs mattered more. And eventually my nervous system said, hey, wake up. I need to be cared for also. In a lot of ways, that's what CRPS is. That's what an overactive nervous system is. It's your body saying, "Hey, wake up! I'm here. Help me." Um, I often say this: CRPS and POTS, PANS, PANDAS, FND, all of these other conditions that go along with it, they often get the name invisible illness. Okay, that is a across the board statement for a lot of conditions. And I truly believe the reason that that name has been assigned, as I said, words are important to me, is that we all have a deep, unconscious need to be seen and understood. Okay. And what I mean by that is emotionally, we feel invisible, not only in our illness, but in our life. And so part of the way that we heal invisible illnesses is by helping ourselves finally see ourselves on a deeper level. Okay. If that doesn't make sense to you, this is something that I teach a lot in my online program and in my one-on-ones. So please don't hesitate to reach out on my website, thewindowpane.com, and do a free consult. We'll talk about it. Okay. Great question, Danella. Thank you. Okay, Jenny, what if you can't afford the program? Jenny, I hear you. When I was dealing with CRPS, I did not have any money. I didn't have health insurance. I went home and I laid on my father's couch for a number of years, and no one could help me because I didn't have any money. Um, and so that is why I am consistently making free material just like this video to help you. My program and my one-on-one coaching is not required for you to get help for your CRPS. I don't gatekeep any of my methods or my information. I don't. It's all actually here on YouTube. It's just that the online program is a little more structured or guided in a specific order for you, but you don't have to take the program. And in fact, tons of people message me all the time about how much my free videos have helped them. So, what I would advise for you to do if you're not in a position at the moment to afford the program is I would advise you to just start with my free videos and I would go ahead and click on my name, which should be down here underneath the video, and go through my videos from, the ones I first put out all the way to now. That's about 200 hours of videos, but it's so much information and so much that could help you. You just have to put in the time to go through it, but it's all totally free. Additionally, what I'd recommend for you is go to the pinned comment under this video and click on the link to sign up for my email newsletter. It's totally free. And as I said, I send out toolkits every single week to help you with things like sleep, desensitization, meditation, etc. So I make a consistent effort to make the program as accessible as possible. And if you can't get into it right now, that's okay. Start with the free stuff. I would rather you guys start with the free stuff than jump right into my program. Start with the free stuff. Make sure you like what you're hearing or it's going to be helpful for you. And then you can sign up for the program if you want to. Additionally, if you can't afford the 375 for the program or the 300 with the coupon code Q&A 75, which I'll link down in the comment as well, then what you can do is you can use Afterpay or Klarna, which are two features that I have in the payment system. And that is interest-free financing. So I pay extra money per month to have that interest-free financing option. And I think it takes the cost down to about $60 a month for a couple months, interest-free. You'll have to click that on checkout if you want to try that. If that's more accessible to you than 300 upfront. But I feel for you, and you do not need to buy or pay anything to me to get help. I will continuously be putting out free information like this, including 9 more of these videos just this year and a ton of other videos I have planned. So yeah, Jenny, I hear you. You don't need to pay me anything. It's just if you want something more customized or more structured, those options are there for you. And the reason I have to charge for some things is because, well, this is my job. And so, if you go to a hairdresser and you get a haircut, they're going to charge you for the haircut. But I do want to put out as much free info as possible. And then I do have some paid services that are to support me and my family, my elderly father, and pay towards my student loans and things like that. So yeah, all that to say, you don't need to pay me anything. Check out all of my free stuff. I got a ton of it and a ton more to come. Great question, though. Okay, Rhonda. Looks like we're getting close to the end here. Hi, Chase. I have 2 questions. How do I focus on CRPS recovery when I have other health issues, such as AFib, that continuously draw my attention away? I have had bad AFib days where I relax and breathe, focusing on calming my heart down. Ablation failed. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And then the second question, my CRPS is in my left knee. I was diagnosed after having surgery for a fractured patella. I also have 2 meniscus tears. Severe osteoarthritis has now set in. My PT was stopped by my surgeon due to the severe pain from forced bending. I could bend the knee to 100 degrees, albeit a painful 100 degrees. I'm now at 60. No PT will touch me. Can you suggest a couple of gentle bending and stretching and strengthening exercises I can try? Oh man, Rhonda, I'm really sorry to hear. It's particularly about number 2 that no PT was stopped. PT should have just been modified. So that's really a bummer. And then number 1, so let me answer number 1 first, then we'll jump into number 2. So number 1, how do I focus on CRPS recovery when I have other health issues going on? Well, honestly, those days when you're focusing on relaxing and breathing and calming your heart down, you're actually calming your nervous system. So those days are still days that you're helping with CRPS. Additionally, you can do CRPS stuff that isn't taxing for your heart. So remember, I have my desensitization videos to teach you desensitization techniques. Those won't be taxing for your cardiovascular system at all. And honestly, I would hope that you could get to PT with a cardiovascular physical therapist. And I would honestly shop around a little bit for PTs in that regard. So, depending on what state you're in, look for a cardiovascular specialized physical therapist. Maybe call the clinic that did your heart or your ablation and um, ask them if they have cardio PT that you can take part in. I think that would be very good. Then with the CRPS in your left knee, and then these mentions of osteoarthritis and the meniscal tear. What I want you to know is that structure has very little to do with your pain. In fact, if I go down to the Houston Rockets basketball team and I scan the entire basketball team, which they have no pain, mind you, statistically, 30% of them will have a torn meniscus and not even know it. Okay. So a lot of times we blame structure for our pain when it's not even relevant at all. So, for example, I have a little wrinkle on my forehead here, probably getting bigger by the more I think or get angry with some of these doctors. But this wrinkle on my forehead doesn't cause my headaches. Just like a meniscal tear doesn't necessarily cause knee pain by virtue of the fact that 30% of people have meniscal tears without knowing. And here's a study on the screen to support that claim. That's not only true for meniscal tears, but that's true for rotator cuff tears. It's true for herniated discs. It's true for bulging discs. It's true for spondylolisthesis. It's true for osteoarthritis. We can have arthritic changes and no pain whatsoever. So I hope you can disconnect your pain from these structural things that you've been told. And I hope that we can find you another PT to help you with some of this bending and stretching and strengthening. The knee is pretty straightforward. If you can't bend it, you try to bend it, and if you can't, stretch it, you try to stretch it. That's pretty straightforward. The joint only moves, one way like this. So that is the general consensus there. What I'm going to do is down in the comments, in my pinned comment, the big pinned comment that I keep adding things to, I'm going to give you a website where you can search for a specialist who at least has some training in pain, maybe not necessarily CRPS, but chronic pain in general. And this is a tool that I have for people to search for PTs in their area. And why don't you use that tool to search for a PT who might be trained? So I'll use Tennessee as an example, and I'll show you. I don't know if you're in Tennessee, but that's coming to mind. If you click on Tennessee on this tool, it'll bring up a list of therapists who have registered themselves to say, "Hey, I'm specialized in pain in some way," and you can call one or two of those people and say, "Hey, I have CRPS. I've been having a really hard time with my knee and bending it, and a lot of PTs won't touch me. Will you help me?" I guarantee you can find one. I guarantee you can. And then on top of it, reach out for me sometime and book a free consult and let's talk. And I'll be able to give you. I don't want to give you any suggestions on bending and strengthening exercises explicitly because I really want to know more of your story before I do that. So go ahead and book a free consult with me on my website, thewindowpain.com, or down in the pinned comment, and I can talk about some stuff for you if I learn some more of your story. But first of all, great question. Second of all, I'm so sorry for some of the experience you've had medically. And I hope we can find you a cardio PT and potentially a pain specialized PT through that website that I'm going to link down in the pinned comment. All right, Jeanette. Hi, Chase. If you can, please address the stuck in fight or flight nervous system that can be done to help with anxiety and panic attacks. My pain level is tolerable. Wonderful. I cannot seem to control the panic attacks. Physical pain, disease, and suffering have taken over my mind, and I need help. I fear dying and no one being able to help me. My panic attacks feel like I'm being smothered and can't breathe. I'm seeing a neuropsychologist and working on your modules. I have done the timeline and faced the fact that I've lived in fear and why I've lived in fear since I was little. My nervous system has been in a hypervigilant state since then, literally a lifetime. My faith is all that sustains me at this point. I know your course is tailored more to physical pain, but I feel like this is another factor in an overactive nervous system. Thank you, Chase. Jeanette, you are just starting my course. It is not tailored more to physical pain. If you go through my course, you will find very quickly, especially in Module 7, that I talk about exactly the things that you're talking about in this question. I have an entire process in my online course, Module 7, Steps 1 through 5, where I help you go through and understand how the things on your timeline from Module 1 help or correlate to this living in fear and this hypervigilance and how to help you calm that down. When I read your statement here, what I hear is I feel my panic attacks feel like I'm being smothered and I can't breathe. My mind immediately goes to what happened when was there a time when you were being smothered and couldn't breathe? And how can we help that? Okay. And so in step one of my course, it's the picture activity. I have you, step one of my module seven in my course is the picture activity. I have you go to different ages in your life where something bad happened. And I would first suggest when you get to that, selecting the age in which you felt like you were being smothered and couldn't breathe. And I would do the picture activity that I mentioned in that aspect of my course. I think it will be really helpful to calm you down. I'm very sorry to hear all of the things that you are going through, and I'm glad that you're in my course. And I think we've already done a consultation. I have your name blurred out here, so I can't remember if this is the Jeanette I'm thinking of. But if we haven't, shoot me a message and let's get one set up. You're gonna be okay. I'm here for you. You are not alone. Let's work through this together. But yes, great question. My course is not tailored more to the physical. Remember, physical and emotional go together like one. My course is both. Okay. In the beginning, it starts with the physical, and then at the end, it gets to the deeper stuff. Okay. So that's there for you. Alicia, she responded to my newsletter asking for questions, and she said, we just talked actually today to get her potentially started with coaching. She said, "I'm curious how desensitization works when transitioning from touching the body with three objects to using beans, rice, or sand. Does this process involve a sudden switch to the new material, or is it more about gradually adding it alongside the initial objects?" Okay, so the entire design of desensitization is literally just to give your body information. And so when it comes to three different objects, so if I wanted to desensitize, I could really quickly select three items. Can, uh, envelope, and smooth crystal ball. Okay. I've selected these items, right? And what I can do is for my hand, let's say my hand needs to be desensitized. I can touch gently with the envelope. I can touch gently with the smooth crystal ball, or I can touch gently with the metal can. Each of these have a slight variation in texture, which is teaching my nervous system that smooth, metallic, and paper are safe textures. Okay. When we start to do other desensitization activities, they all have a different purpose to teach safety. So sand, beans, or rice, which are detailed in my desensitization video, it's like using 100 cans. Okay. It's a whole bunch of input all at once instead of single input. So this material, it's not a sudden switch, it's a gradual process adding in these new techniques. You can start with whatever you want. Some people will start with a stuffed animal with desensitization. Some people hate the feeling of the stuffed animal to start, and they'll start with a toothbrush, believe it or not. So don't overthink it. The process is simple. We need to get curious and we need to give our brain information, period. Okay. So try the beans, the sand, or the rice and see how it feels. And if it feels too daunting, then try something else. Also, if you're doing the beans or the sands or the rice and it feels very painful to put your feet down on it or your hands, then what I would do is I would put a pillowcase over the beans or sand or rice and then put our feet or hands on it. That is kind of noise canceling headphones muffling the material while still getting exposure to it. Okay, so great question for number one. Number two, I can press my foot's weight onto objects with little sensitivity. However, my toes, when unsupported and upright, need something firm behind them to keep them from going crazy. How can I adapt the beets, rice, and sand to help my brain realize it doesn't have to freak out when only my toes are touched? Suffice to say, I've never enjoyed pedicures. Have you never in your whole life enjoyed pedicures? Because if that's the case, your toes are extra sensitive because they've always been. And so you don't necessarily need to modify anything. You just need to continue to do it. But if you really want to modify it, I would, and you're not going to like this, but I would start with putting my toes in only first. That might be the way to do it. It's very simple. If you can't do something, you need to start to do it in the smallest dose possible. So if that looks like taking a jar and having the beans or sand or rice inside, and then taking your foot, and like let's say my hand is my foot, and just slowly sliding it in and tapping it with the tip of our toes into the jar, that would be the way you would start. Okay. Let's make a goal for you to get a pedicure eventually. Okay. I think that'd be good. And then three, should I remove the KT tape from my knee and foot before doing desensitization exercise, or is it okay to keep it on? Totally okay to keep it on. No worries about that at all. So yeah, Alicia is asking about some specific exercises in my online course that are related to it. So if you have questions or curious about that, they're in there. They're also in some of my YouTube videos, my desensitization series. This is all on YouTube, so feel free to check that out as well. Okay, that's it. Wow, I don't even know what we're at. We're probably getting close to 2 hours now. But I just want to say thank you guys for all the questions. I look forward so much to doing 9 more of these this year. And if you have any more specific questions or you want to ask me anything for the next one, again, put it down in the description down or the comments down below. Please, if you've enjoyed this video and you've been watching, do remember to leave a like on the video. That helps me out a lot. And subscribe to be notified for the next one. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great weekend ahead because I think this is going to come out on a Friday or a Saturday. And otherwise, from there, I will see you in the next video. Take care.